Srimatre Namaha. I meditate upon Lord Rama, the Lord of the Raghu dynasty, the sovereign of the universe, whose consort is the pure and divine Sita, worshipped by the sages of all ages. He is the mighty hero of immeasurable strength, armed with a single arrow. His compassionate glance showers boundless grace upon all beings. The Adikavya, Ramayana, is the first and foremost epic. It tells us how human life should be, about morals, discipline, dharma, and their eternal value. Through the story of Rama's coronation, the Pattabhishekam, the Ramayana teaches us righteousness. If the Ramayana is truly understood, if one reads it with devotion, if one develops love for it, fundamental changes will come about in one's way of life. The Ramayana is not just an epic, it is the eternal flame of dharma, lighting the path of righteousness for all time. Its verses carry the fragrance of Lord Rama's compassion, purity, and noble virtues. To read or recite it is to cleanse the heart and draw nearer to truth. It is a divine guide for life. Through Rama's devotion to his parents, his unwavering love for Sita, his loyalty to companions, and his compassion even for foes, the Ramayana shows how human life can reflect the divine. Divine, to utter Rama, awakens purities within. To hear the Ramayana is to welcome the Lord into one's soul, for Rama is not merely Ayodhya's king, he is the eternal refuge, the light that dispels ignorance, and dharma embodied for all ages. Just as a sculptor carves a stone into a beautiful idol, reading and listening to the Ramayana with devotion shapes a person into one with noble values. For instilling the essential values that life needs, there is no greater or more accessible epic than the Ramayana. Merely by teaching rules, one may find it difficult to remember everything. But when taught through the life and character of Sri Rama, as the embodiment of righteousness, Lord Rama walked this earth, demonstrating the true essence of dharma by his every action and step. Studying the Ramayana with devotion reveals how exalted dharma is and how it protects those who follow it. To impart such profound dharma to the world, the Guru plays a role of unparalleled importance. Even the realization of the existence of God is only possible through the grace of the Guru. It is said, when God wished to reveal himself to humankind, he chose to take the form of a Guru. In every form that the divine takes, the guiding presence of the Guru becomes evident to those who look with discernment. Lord Shiva himself is revered as Dakshinamurti, seated in silence, communicating the supreme truth of Brahman through the language of silence, surrounded by devoted sages, bestowing the wisdom of the self to the world as the universal Guru. Likewise, Krishna, born at midnight and to dispel the darkness of ignorance, is worshipped as the Jagadguru. Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. As the divine Guru, he delivered the Bhagavad Gita, imparting the supreme wisdom of Dharma. The divine mother, in her forms as Meenakshi, Kamakshi, and Vishalakshi, is worshipped as Guru Mandala Rupini, the very embodiment of the Guru principle. In every form, the divine manifests as the guiding Guru, imparting wisdom to seekers. Without God taking the role of the Guru, and without imparting knowledge to the world, there would be no way to realize the presence of the divine. The vision of God as creator, sustainer, destroyer is rare. But the vision of the Guru, the living form of the Supreme Brahman on earth, makes realization attainable. No one can fully describe the greatness and glory of the Guru. The Guru encompasses the Creator, the Preserver, the Destroyer, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, and is the embodiment of the Supreme Divine. For this reason, in all auspicious undertakings, the first salutation is always offered to the Guru. At dawn, upon waking, the mind remembers the feet of the Guru. Before sleeping, the mind contemplates the Guru. There is none greater than the Guru, and there is no blessing higher than the remembrance of the Guru. Simply recalling the benevolence of the Guru is the most auspicious invocation. It is special that the Ramayana epic commences with the remembrance of the Guru. Lord Rama descended to earth as a human being, and as such was shaped by his gurus. For a human to be endowed with true values, the Guru alone has the power to instill them. Thus, of all incarnations, it is in Lord Rama's life that the influence of the Guru is most evident. In the Balakanda, Ayodhya Kanda, Aranya Kanda, the immense influence of the Gurus on Rama shines forth, especially in the Balakanda. Sages like Vasishta and Vishwamitra shaped Sri Rama into the ideal human being. For this reason, the Ramayana begins by venerating the Guru, bowing in gratitude, recounting the Guru's greatness. The very first verse of the Balakanda describes, dedicated to austerity and study, the best of sages, Valmiki approached Narada, the supreme among the eloquent. When Narada came to the ashram of sage Valmiki, he came as the Guru, Valmiki as the disciple. They extolled the greatness of the Guru, steadfast in austerity and knowledge. And when we think of the word tapas, austerity, it should not be misunderstood as merely turning away from the world or retreating into the forest. True austerity, tapas, is not merely about sitting with one's nose pinched shut or simply restraining the senses. Nowhere is it said that tapas means only restricting the senses or isolating oneself. The real meaning of tapas is to remain steadfast in one's duties, to recognize and honor the value of this physical body, to use it wisely and responsibly. The great poet Kalidasa says, "The body is the foremost instrument for practicing righteousness, dharma." In Vedantic philosophy, the body is called Chijjada Granthi, the sacred knot between consciousness and inert matter. Without consciousness, if awareness departs from the body, it becomes no more useful than a log of wood and is destined for cremation. But while imbued with consciousness, this body is a truly precious tool for practicing dharma. Recognizing its value, one must prepare and maintain the body, so it is fit to perform both daily and occasional rites. This means choosing sattvic, pure, food, food offered to God, moderate in quantity, and imbued with divine qualities. Instead of surrendering to sensual pleasures, the body should be regarded as a sacred vessel for the practice of righteousness, a means of serving dharma, nurtured with purity and care, so that it may help fulfill one's higher purpose. Just as a businessman invests what he has before seeking more, so too, the body is our initial investment in practicing dharma. Only after dedicating what one already possesses will others join in support. The body is the foundation for all spiritual practice. As Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, worship of the gods the twice born, the guru, and the wise, as well as purity, straightforwardness, celibacy, and non-violence. These are called austerities of the body. Therefore, dharma performed through the body means acting according to the station in life, ashrama, in which one dwells. Dharma is fundamentally rooted in the observance of duties proper to each stage, whether as a student, householder, forest dweller, or renunciate. Mixing duties or neglecting one's obligations leads away from righteousness. Each ashrama relies upon the householder stage. Even the monk ultimately depends on the householder for sustenance, as stated by Lord Rama in the Ramayana. Of all life stages, the grihastha, ashrama, is considered supreme, for it supports all others. For a householder, the foremost duty is to use the body to serve the divine. Each day, to fulfill one's debt to the gods with daily worship, to serve elders and the wise, to listen to the teachings of one's guru, to seek true knowledge from the enlightened, emulating the ways of the virtuous, honoring both the guru and the wise. Thus upholds the path of dharma in daily life. The Jagadguru Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita proclaims, "Whatever the noble ones do, others follow in their footsteps. The standards they set become the path for the whole world." Thus, the world looks to the conduct of the great as its guiding light and strives to walk that very path. True purity, Sausha, is twofold, outer and inner. Keeping the body clean is important, but cherishing uplifting and virtuous thoughts maintains the mind in sacred purity. Sincerity, arjava, is aligning one's words and deeds. What is in the heart must come forth in speech, and speech and action should be one. At first, it takes practice to express the heart's true feelings, but gradually, words, thoughts, and deeds unite seamlessly in sincerity. This alignment and discipline are themselves a form of brahmacharya, restraint and self-mastery, which applies both to students and to householders who uphold discipline while engaged in worldly life. Equally, non-violence, ahimsa, is cultivated by striving never to cause harm to anyone, whether by word or deed. The body, entrusted to us, is a precious instrument for spiritual practice. Of the senses, the tongue is particularly formidable. Its craving for flavor can often lead to overindulgence, harming one's health. To master this, the ancients performed observances such as Chandrayana Vrata, modulating their diet with the phases of the moon, increasing or decreasing one mouthful daily, culminating in either feasting or fasting according to the lunar calendar. Such practices nurtured self-restraint and taught moderation. True austerity, tapas, is faithfully performing daily and ordained duties, offering regular prayers, performing worship, engaging in sacred rituals such as Sandhya Vandanam, devoutly honoring holy days like Sri Rama Navami or Sri Krishna Ashtami, living by the scriptural instructions given for such occasions. By subduing and mastering the senses, calming the mind, and deliberately merging it in the self, one rises above all duality and experiences the highest state of absorption, samadhi. It is like the example Swami Vivekananda gives. A pole vaulter races forward, plants the pole firmly, and vaults ever higher. The pole, once only a support, is left behind as the aspirant soars upward, starting with discipline over the body, progressing through steadfast observance, The seeker ultimately transcends even the awareness of the body and attains union with the Supreme. When a seeker attains the state of deep absorption, samadhi, all bodily awareness fades and only the pure self remains. In Ashtanga Yoga, this is the eighth and highest step, samadhi. To attain this supreme state, effort must always begin with the body, for the journey of tapas, austerity, and spiritual practice starts here. In truth, it is the mind that decides the path of a person's life and even determines the nature of rebirth. The sages declare, the mind alone is the cause of bondage and liberation. Doctors may identify every organ in the body, yet no one can point to the mind itself, for it is subtle, an ever-flowing stream of thoughts, desires, and memories, ever-changing and insubstantial. To discipline the mind, to keep it gentle, to preserve its calm, to direct it toward acts of dharma and thoughts of the divine, is the essence of tapas. True austerity does not mean abandoning everything, but rather cultivating inner clarity and equanimity during all of life's practices. The scriptures extol these spiritual disciplines: calmness of mind, pleasantness, silence, self-restraint, purity of intention. These, they declare, are the hallmarks of true spiritual tapas. A pure mind is one that does not get excessively agitated, that responds with gentleness and respect toward all. Even if challenged by difficult thoughts of others, it strives to think kindly, or, failing that, chooses not to dwell on negativity so as not to heap sin upon oneself. It is a mind free from cruelty, never seeking gain at the expense of another. The true devotee's mind is ever drawn to reflections on God, on righteousness, and on the scriptures. By observing the origin of one's words and honoring the sacred power of speech, one recognizes, as the Vedas proclaim, that words are a holy offering, like an Agnihotra fire. Just as fire removes impurities from what it touches, so the word, rightly spoken, burns away ignorance. Sometimes, the greatest knowledge and glory that comes from words is best understood in silence. Constant study of sacred scriptures, along with the discipline to restrain and guide the mind, is an essential form of spiritual practice. When the mind is prevented from wandering restlessly and is instead anchored to divine thoughts, through the study of texts like the Ramayana, Mahabharata, or Bhagavatam, it brings purity and clarity to one's inner life. If this becomes a daily habit, over time, the mind itself yearns for such spiritual nourishment and naturally seeks the joy of sacred study, leading to a deepening love and a purity of mind. Among the 84 lakh, 8.4 million different life forms, only to humans has God given the rare and wondrous gift of speech. With speech alone, a person can redeem themselves. If one can fill their tongue with the Lord's holy name, as saints declare, all sin is destroyed, and even the most troubled soul finds solace and upliftment. A single kind word brings comfort to those in sorrow and inspires the fallen to strive for nobility. Understanding the value of speech helps one realize how carefully it must be used. Thus, the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Anudvigakaram, Vakyam Satyam, Priyahitam, Chayat, Svadhyayabhyasanam, Chaiva Vangmayam, Tapa Uchyate, words that cause no disturbance, that are true, dear, and beneficial, and regular recitation of sacred texts. This is austerity of speech. True speech must be kind, and never cause pain to others. It should be true and loving. Speak the truth, but do so with compassion. If what is true will hurt another, it is better left unsaid. If what is pleasant is untrue, it is not to be spoken either. These are the careful disciplines Scripture places on our words. The reason the Lord gifted speech only to humans is so that we may offer it as a sacrifice, as Agnihotra, a sacred fire. Recognizing the power and sacredness of speech, strive always to use words that are true, loving, and beneficial. Speak what helps uplift the listener, what suits their situation, age, and capacity, never saying anything that would confuse or mislead from duty. Daily, ponder the truths revealed in the Vedas and scriptures, constantly seeking to understand and live by their wisdom. Even the words of such spiritual study and benevolence are a form of tapas, true austerity. Hence, the true sage, like the great Narada, continues ever in self-discipline and sacred study, not merely absorbed in motionless meditation, but alive in the practice of uplifting words and actions throughout life. Among all spiritual seekers, there is none greater than one who diligently disciplines the body, mind, speech, and daily sacred actions. The sage Narada is such an exalted ascetic, ever engaged in tapas and the constant study and teaching of dharma. To truly know dharma, there are 5 great sources, brahmanas, recognized in tradition. The foremost is Shruti, the holy Vedas. Why are the Vedas so revered? Because only through the Vedas do we come to know the path of righteousness. The Vedas are not authored by any individual. They are the very breath of God, divine utterance itself. Just as breath becomes speech, and one's existence is tied to that breath, so too is the Veda one with the divine. Therefore, when seeking Dharma, it is the word of God, the Veda, that stands as the highest authority. Realizing that few can master the vastness of the Vedas, the sages distilled their essence into Smriti texts, sacred traditions that guide us in practical application, such as the laws given by sages like Atri, Yajnavalkya, and Gautama. These Smriti texts flow from the Vedas as a calf follows its mother, always pointing us back to the original truth. The third authority is the Puranas, ancient narratives that not only recount history, but also reveal how souls journey after this earthly life, illustrating Vedic truths through stories and examples. Fourth is Shishtashara, the conduct of the noble and wise in society. If the Vedas, Smritis, and Puranas are out of reach, one should look to the lives of the virtuous as a model for Dharma. The fifth guide is the prompting of the inner self, Antaratma Prabodhana. When all else fails, the voice of conscience, the Lord's own prompting within, guides one to what is right and warns against misdeeds. The highest aspirants, therefore, continually study the Vedas with their supplements, grammar, phonetics, astrology, metrics, etymology, ritual, philosophy, law, health, music, archery, and more, 18 branches in total. But true wisdom is not only measured by one's depth of knowledge, it is also in the ability to simplify and convey that knowledge in a way that others can clearly understand. This is a special grace, the blessing of Saraswati, the goddess of speech. The greatness of a sage like Narada is not just skillful teaching, but the ability to speak and to listen with perfect purity and discipline, using only authoritative scripture as the measure. That alone earns the title supremely eloquent, Vagvidam Varam. Indeed, when such enlightened beings become absorbed in the very essence of sacred sound, merging into the divine, becoming one with Brahman itself, as the Upanishads declare, Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. This is the ultimate state, where words meet their source in the infinite. A true sage is one who becomes completely immersed in silence, so much so that he abides at the very origin of all words and thoughts. Such an enlightened one attains the highest state of the self. The great seer Narada was a sage of this unsurpassed wisdom. He could transmit divine knowledge with his words to seekers, possessing all the noble qualities of a tapasvi, austere one, an ever-devoted student, and a master of eloquence. It was such a revered guru who once visited the ashram of Valmiki. Upon seeing the venerable Narada, Valmiki received him with deep reverence, greeting him with folded hands, offering water to wash his feet, and seating him respectfully. In our tradition, these acts of welcoming, known as puja, involve various ways of honoring, with as many as 64 traditional offerings. Even if all cannot be performed, showing at least the 5 basic courtesies to elders or teachers is essential, such as the respectful full prostration, Sastanga Namaskaram, which is offered when the guru is serene and ready to bless. Serving, standing humbly, asking with bowed head, and making the appropriate offerings all come under the spirit of worship. Only after such worship did Valmiki ask Narada his most important questions. Scripture teaches that when we genuinely desire true knowledge from a guru, we must humbly recognize our own insignificance before the greatness of wisdom. Lord Krishna says in the Gita, approach with humility, ask with devotion, and serve in sincerity. The sages will impart knowledge to the earnest seeker. Gurus carry the weight of their wisdom, and we must approach them as if we are light, ready to receive. The Guru Gita proclaims salutations to the Guru, whose wisdom is like a sacred fire. To learn from such a fire, ask politely and with sincere submissiveness, recognizing the Guru's tranquility and readiness to teach and serve with devotion. Only then, with the heart's utmost attention, can the nectar of their wisdom truly bless our lives. In his Sivananda Lahari, Adi Shankaracharya says, just as an iron needle is irresistibly drawn to a magnet, or a devoted creeper envelops a tree, so too does the mind of the true devotee become steadfast at the feet of the Lord. First comes listening, then contemplation. When the nectar of divine teachings enters through the ears and is established in the heart, all the dust of countless lifetimes is wiped away and immortality is attained. So, when the Guru speaks, listen as carefully as one milks a cow, ensuring not a single drop is wasted. Whoever absorbs and treasures that wisdom within the heart is freed from the endless wanderings of worldly existence and begins to take steps towards the path of immortality. This attentive devotion, this Shraddha, is the essence of true discipleship and the gateway to liberation. In that sacred moment, the seeker's devotion moves the heart of the illumined Guru, who then graciously imparts the highest knowledge, the realization of truth itself. Just as Valmiki received the wise and noble sage Narada with the utmost reverence, so too should every disciple serve their Guru with devotion and humility. and approach with earnest questions. In that sacred moment, the seeker's devotion moves the heart of the illumined Guru, who then graciously imparts the highest knowledge, the realization of truth itself. Just as Valmiki received the wise and noble sage Narada with the utmost reverence, so too should every disciple serve their Guru with devotion and humility, and approach with earnest questions. Thus, the great epic of Ramayana begins with the beautiful relationship between Guru and disciple. It emphasizes how one should approach the Guru, serve them, and recognize the greatness and glory of the Guru's presence. Valmiki, with sincerity and humility, honors Narada, the tapasvi, ever engaged in sacred study, blessed with eloquence, and asks his questions in the spirit of deep respect and inquiry. To seek true knowledge from the master, the disciple must first make himself small before the vastness of wisdom, knowing that the Guru's knowledge is a sacred fire, and one must approach with the humility of sincere reverence, seeking to learn only when the Guru is willing and in a tranquil state. Sage Valmiki's earnest question to Devasi Narada: is there, in this world, a man truly endowed with all virtues, one who is courageous, righteous, learned in dharma, grateful, ever truthful, and firm in his vows, one radiant in conduct and glory, wise in knowledge, and steadfast in spirit, a king from noble lineage, gentle to all beings, yet mighty in upholding dharma? To this, Narada replies with reverence, yes, such a person exists. He is Sri Rama of Ayodhya, born in the illustrious Ikshvaku dynasty. Lord Rama is the Maryada Purushottama, the supreme exemplar of Dharma. He is the treasure house of all noble virtues, grateful, truthful, and steadfast in his word. His conduct shines as the highest standard for humanity, teaching how life should be lived with dignity, devotion, and love. Gentle to all beings, compassionate even towards enemies, yet invincible in battle, his righteous power inspires even the gods. Self-controlled and serene, he has conquered anger and mastered the restless senses. Free from envy, he honors the greatness of others and sees all with equal vision. To remember, Rama is to remember the very ideal of truth, virtue, and divine compassion. Understanding Dharma is not merely knowing what is right, but practicing it steadfastly. As the scriptures say, Dharma protects those who protect it. Dharma, once practiced sincerely, unfailingly, shelters its adherent, like a staff that supports one from a fall. It is not enough to know righteousness. It is essential to live it so deeply that even when there is no apparent benefit to gain, it is observed for its own sake, out of the joy and satisfaction of a clear conscience. This is the legacy of Rama, as narrated in the Ramayana. Virtue upheld for its own intrinsic goodness, and the conduct of Dharma as the path to inner peace, fulfillment, and divine grace. A wise person once said, being honest is not a qualification, but being dishonest is a disqualification. In life, and especially in our professional roles, integrity is not just a virtue, it is a necessity. Without honesty, one is subject to consequences. With honesty, it becomes a natural way of being, not something extraordinary. Dharma is not just knowing what is right, but living it steadfastly. Gratefulness means never forgetting a kindness done, and always being ready to return it. The Ramayana teaches there is no penance for ingratitude. Remember kindness and live with thankfulness. Truthfulness is another hallmark. To speak only the truth, unwavering in moments of challenge. Those who declare they will do something, take time to think, and then fulfill their promises even in adversity, embody firmness of resolve. Character is paramount. Not how much a person knows, nor how much they teach, but how they conduct themselves. True character is revealed in compassion, seeing all beings with kindness, offering shade like a tree, offering light and wisdom like a lamp to all, without discrimination or expectation. Let every word spoken uplift, every action inspire goodness, so that people rejoice in such presence. Though none is perfect, harboring resentment and always seeking faults is ignorance. The wise forgive swiftly, forget with joy, and greet others with love and cheerfulness. Such qualities make one beloved and auspicious to all, as celebrated in the scriptures. A truly noble soul is courageous, pressing onward, trustworthy even in adversity, maintaining faith in the outcome despite all hardships. Mastery over anger, greater even than mastery over desires, is a vital virtue, for anger and desire are twin forces that bind and disturb the heart. Those who overcome them attain peace and command respect. Thus, in all aspects of life, honesty, gratitude, truth, resolve, character, compassion, cheerfulness, fortitude, self control, let each of us strive to embody these divine virtues, living in the spirit of dharma and purity. To master anger is one of life's highest virtues. When one truly understands the destructive power of anger, they seek to restrain it, realizing that nothing lasting or meaningful can ever be achieved through anger. Even if something appears to be gained through rage, it is always fleeting and temporary, while achievements won through love and compassion endure forever. Thus, the ability to let go of anger comes from understanding the harm it causes. When one sees their own anger as the true enemy and chooses to conquer it, they progress on the path of virtue. Another profound virtue is to be free from envy, to rejoice in the good qualities of others, and to avoid criticism or resentment. Such a person, radiant and noble, never tries to diminish the glow of others, but celebrates every goodness without jealousy. True heroes possess these 16 divine qualities spoken of in our scriptures: strength that smiles even in adversity, unwavering commitment to dharma, gratitude for every kindness done, steadfast devotion to truth, firmness in resolve, uprightness in conduct, sincere compassion for all creatures, wisdom, capability, and cheerfulness that lifts those around them. They live not in constant judgment or the search for faults, but with forgiveness, cheer, and loving kindness for all. When Valmiki asked the great sage Narada if such a human existed, he was not seeking the qualities of gods, but those of a mortal, someone whose virtues would serve as a shining lamp for all mankind, whose actions and character would remain a guiding light long after their earthly body had passed. Through the story of Rama, these virtues are displayed, teaching that greatness is not an inheritance of the gods, but cultivated by humans through conscious living, compassion, and the continual expression of the best within ourselves. The greatness of human birth lies in its potential. Even the gods admire the blessedness of those who live by these virtues. Thus, let each soul strive to express their inner goodness, love, forgiveness, charity, and compassion, so that, as humans, we may live up to our highest purpose and leave behind a legacy of light for generations yet to come. What is it that makes this birth truly great. It is the cultivation and expression of noble virtues: truth, integrity, compassion, selfless action. When a person departs from this world, their true legacy, their enduring remembrance, rests not on possessions or power, but on their virtues. These cannot be hidden. Whatever is truly within will manifest as character, as conduct, a living history, a foundation of trust. Such ones become exemplars, ideals for all generations. When Valmiki, the ancient sage, inquired of Narada, "Who is the person with all these noble qualities?" Narada replied, "These attributes are rare, not ordinary or common, but divine. Not even the gods possess them by right. It is when the divine itself takes birth as a human that such virtues are perfectly expressed." Thus, Narada recounts the sacred story of Rama, the Sankshipta Ramayana, the essence of Ramayana, told in summary as true history, not invention. This is the greatness of our itihasas. They are sacred histories, where the authors themselves are participants in the events recorded, like Valmiki in the Ramayana, like Vyasa in the Bhagavata and Mahabharata. What is written is not the product of imagination, but living truth, handed down so that we too may learn, emulate, and aspire. So let us, as humans, treasure our precious birth through the pursuit of virtue and remembrance of Sri Rama's holy story. By doing so, we align ourselves with the divine purpose, fulfill our highest potential, and pave the way to eternal liberation. The incarnation of Lord Rama is more than a mere story of an avatar. It is the divine, revealing the greatness of the human state. As a human, Rama lived an exemplary life. He married, had children, ruled virtuously for 11,000 years, and then ascended to the highest realm, Brahmaloka. In doing so, he demonstrated to the world the nobility and glory of being human. As the sage Narada described the countless virtues of Rama, he became so immersed in the narrative that the heart and mind of anyone who hears the story are naturally drawn in, enchanted by Rama's character and deeds. Such is the mesmerizing power and sublimity of Rama's life. Simply contemplating his virtues fills the heart with devotion and the mind with inspiration. This tradition of disciples following their guru reflects not only reverence, but a threefold service: caring for the place where the guru dwells, so it remains pure and comfortable, caring for the guru's physical well-being, and above all, internalizing and practicing the guru's teachings in one's own life. This reverence is found at every step in our culture. The disciple anticipates and attends to the needs of the guru, without being told, ever thoughtful of the teacher's comfort, health, and instruction. As they arrived at the river, Valmiki turned to his disciple and said, "Bharadwaja, behold this holy water. See how pure, how limpid it is, spotless, beautiful, and serene, just like the pure mind of a noble soul." After meeting Narada, sage Valmiki set out for his midday rituals along the banks of the holy Tamasa river, accompanied by his disciple Bharadwaja. Why this analogy? Because after hearing even the brief story of Rama from Narada, Valmiki's heart was overflowing with Rama's virtues. Every thought, every perception was bathed in the glory of Rama. That is the transformative effect of the Ramayana. It gently captivates the mind and fills the heart with Rama's divine presence. When a devotee is so immersed, the whole universe appears saturated with the spirit of Rama, Jagamanta, Ramamayam. The entire world is experienced as permeated by Rama. This is the beauty and inner power of sincerely listening to the Ramayana. Like the clear, pure waters of the Tamasa, the heart and mind are left luminous, pure, and full of the Lord's presence. In the sacred waters, there is not a trace of impurity. In Rama, there is not a trace of sin. Sin arises wherever there is attachment or aversion, wherever there is longing or hatred, mistakes are made. But Rama is utterly established in peace, free from both attachment and aversion. True peace, as the saints declare, is the mind free from passions and prejudices. Such was the heart of Rama. He acted always in accordance with dharma, never swayed by partiality or anger, doing only what was right, as revealed by scripture and conscience. Therefore, just as the holy waters are pure and unsullied, so too was Rama's heart, stainless and luminous. When sage Valmiki pointed to the beautiful waters, he was, in fact, beholding the very nature of Rama, who embodied all that is pure and sublime. Worldly standards of beauty are fleeting. That which is beautiful today may wither in time, but the beauty of virtue never fades. Physical beauty is subject to age, illness, and the ravages of time. But a person adorned with noble qualities remains forever radiant. Great sages, even with the frailest of forms, radiate peace and inspiration, drawing reverence from all who behold them. When we contemplate the portraits of illumined souls, Chandrasekharendra, Saraswati of Kanchi, Bhagavan Ramana of Arunachala, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Chandrasekhar Bharati, our hearts fill with peace and devotion. Their physical forms may appear frail or even peculiar, but their presence commands respect and inspires strength. It is not outward beauty that draws us, but the power of character, the perfection of virtue, and the serenity imparted. The true, undying beauty of a person shines from within, from the treasury of noble qualities. Inner beauty, the beauty of the soul and virtue, alone endures the passage of time and blesses all who draw near. Let each of us, then, strive not for outward beauty, but to cultivate the virtues and inner radiance that make great souls ever inspiring and unforgettable. That is why the story of Rama, who lived in the Treta Yuga, has persisted even after the Dvapara Yuga and into the Kali Yuga. His tale continues to unfold, his name enduring through time. Such is the unmatched beauty of Rama. Truly, how handsome is Rama, Ajanubahu, with arms reaching his knees, eyes like lotus petals, Rama, destroyer of night-wandering demons. I bow to such a Rama. His heart, like these clear and pure waters, is pristine. When it is said that the heart of such a Rama is like these waters, it means not just as a great soul's mind, but exactly like this holy water, stainless and serene. So, when the sage went to the Tamasa river for a bath, it was not simply about bathing or performing midday prayers. His mind was completely filled with thoughts of Rama. Turning to his disciple, he said, "Set down the water pot, child. Hand me the bark cloth." Here is Indian culture, as shown in the Ramayana. The disciple, Bharadwaja, brings everything needed for the guru. Set down the water pot, child. The guru bathes and then performs the prayers. The disciple brings, unbidden, whatever is necessary. This attentive anticipation reflects our tradition of Guru Seva, so revered in the Ramayana and Mahabharata. It is these epics, the Ramayana and Mahabharata, that have always inspired and continue to inspire the cultivation of noble qualities and mental refinement in this land. Such refinement, so deeply rooted, is found nowhere else. The world values the Ramayana and Mahabharata for this reason. Taking the bark cloth in hand, the sage prepared to enter the river, but he did not go directly. Once more, he wandered the forest, his heart full of inner joy, thinking of Rama. Every sight, the forest, the trees, reminded him of Rama's exile, how the illustrious Rama wandered barefoot, hair matted, carrying out his dharma, defeating demons. Everything reminded Valmiki of Rama, and his mind overflowed with those thoughts. As he wandered, he saw a pair of croncher birds sitting happily together on a branch. Suddenly, a hunter shot the male bird with an arrow. The arrow pierced the bird's heart. Covered in blood, the male fell and died. The female circled, grieving for her mate. Witnessing this, sage Valmiki was moved to compassion. Filled with that emotion, upon hearing the plaintive cries of the Crounchy, he spontaneously uttered words which form the very first shloka of Sanskrit poetry. It is not surprising, after mentioning the forest, to speak of birds and hunters. These are the rhythms of forest life. But that day, sage Valmiki's heart was overflowing with Rama. When the heart is so full of Rama and the Ramayana, it overflows with purity and with love. What more do you need? When the mind is filled with love, one cannot harm others. One becomes incapable of hurting any being. If all cease to harm, all creation would be at peace. Even the great tiger will not seek food in the village. Yet it is a unique responsibility given to humans to protect all other beings. The horse does not use the power of a tiger, but a human, riding a horse, harnesses that strength. Lacking wings, a human climbs mountains or rides animals, uses the donkey to carry loads, or fishes in the rivers. All these reflect the unique power and stewardship granted to us as humans. By observing fish swim, humans learn to swim. Seeing birds fly, they dream of soaring among the clouds in airplanes. Watching the peacocks dance, they are inspired to master the art of dance. Hearing the cuckoo's song, they seek to express the beauty of music. Only the human receives endless gifts and inspiration from every being in creation. When a dog rests at the doorstep, it protects the house at night. Recognizing this virtue, humans raise a dog as a guardian, entrusting their comfort to its faithful watchfulness. In this way, people draw upon the unique strengths of all living creatures for their benefit. Yet, for a human to be truly worthy of receiving so much, they must also cultivate the supreme quality of love. If love completely fills the heart, one will protect and cherish all life, and peace will fill the world. True peace in society is born of a peaceful mind, and such a serene mind blossoms only from love. The spirit of love and compassion overflows in the Ramayana. Sage Valmiki's heart was filled entirely with Rama, and from that fullness, boundless compassion flowed forth. When Valmiki saw a hunter strike down a male croucher bird in the midst of joy with its mate, his compassion erupted, not measured, not calculated, pure feeling. Thus was born the world's first shloka, a poem not of intellect, but of a heart anguished by grief and injustice. It is not wrong, in essence, for a bird to be struck in nature, but to end the life of the male as the pair enjoyed innocent joy that violated righteousness. Since the spirit of Rama, the embodiment of Dharma, resided so deeply in Valmiki's heart, he could not accept adharma. He could not bear this injustice. Great sages know that uttering a curse diminishes their penance. so Valmiki would never do so with intent. Yet, from profound empathy, he cried out, "O hunter, because you killed one of the united Croucher birds, lost in their innocent love, may you not live long on this earth?" Later, Valmiki reflected. He had not wished to curse, yet his pain became speech, which became the world's first poetic verse, the very prelude to the Ramayana. This shloka carries a spiritual lesson. Just as Rama vanquished the wicked Ravana, attached to pleasure and unrighteousness, while united with his wife, so does the glory of dharma endure. Such is the power of compassion. Only one overflowing with love can be the true poet of the Ramayana. The world's first poem was not born from intellect, but from a sage's boundless love, suffering, and compassion. When Valmiki witnessed the pair of Croucher birds, the male struck and killed, just as Ravana was felled with Mandodari in the upholding of Dharma. It was as if he praised the Lord. O Vishnu, who establishes righteousness by destroying evil, may your glory be eternal. These thoughts arose as he bathed and performed his midday prayers. Yet his mind continually returned to the story of Rama. Valmiki reflected, why did a shloka come from my lips at that moment? Did I intend it as a curse? No, I did not wish to curse. My heart was filled with compassion and sorrow. If those words had been uttered in agitation, meant as a curse, they would be different. But what emerged was a perfectly metered verse. 4 lines, equal syllables, rhythmically suitable for music and song, easily memorized, easily recited. It struck Valmiki as wondrous. Not a curse, but a melodious, poetic verse. Its structure and cadence was so precise that the disciple Bharadwaja memorized it instantly. See the greatness of this land, Valmiki thought. Here, disciples treasure every word of their guru, holding each close to the heart. This reverence for the words of the teacher is a hallmark of the Indian tradition. As Bharadwaja memorized Valmiki's spontaneous verse, crafted so perfectly for music, Valmiki returned to his hermitage, his mind circling around the story of Rama. Meanwhile, the four-faced creator, Lord Brahma, visited the ashram. Recognizing the honor, Valmiki rose, offered silent salutations, washed Brahma's feet, poured water on his right palm as the highest welcome, and offered a seat. Inquired about his well-being. Yet, even as the creator himself visited, Valmiki's mind circled around the scene of the Croucher birds and the mysterious birth of the shloka from his lips. Why did these words come so perfectly measured, so melodious? Why did they take the form of verse, not a curse? He pondered. Perceiving Valmiki's inner thoughts, Lord Brahma spoke. O sage, it was the Divine Mother Saraswati herself, by my grace, who inspired that verse to emerge from your lips. Within that shloka, the entire story of Rama dwells. You spoke not from malice, but from a heart immersed in Rama's story, moved by a scene where Dharma was violated. That verse, born in sorrow for Dharma's loss, is poetry, not a curse, but the foundation of the Ramayana. This is indeed the blessing of Saraswati, goddess of inspired speech, Brahma said. Thus, the first verse of the Ramayana was born not from anger or intention, but from compassion and sorrow at the violation of Dharma. Valmiki's mind was so suffused with Rama's story that even in daily life, every thought and experience became a reflection of the great narrative. And the disciple, honoring the sacredness of the teacher's words, preserved them instantly with devotion. A beautiful example of India's living spiritual heritage. No utterance, no word arises from your lips without my grace. O Valmiki, the shloka that emerged is my gift, inspired by the Divine Mother Saraswati. Within that single shloka, the entire story of Rama is contained. What your Guru Narada conveyed to you was a summary Ramayana, and now, in that single shloka, you have an even more condensed version. Your task is to expand it, to elaborate and compose the Ramayana in its entirety. You alone, O sage, are blessed for this sacred work, for the world's benefit, for your gentle heart and your loving words. Only a rishi, endowed with compassion, humility, and reverence, can compose such a great kavya. Therefore, I grant you a boon. When you sit for your ritual purification before writing, as soon as you touch your pen to palm leaf, a great secret will be revealed. You will not only know what happened outwardly, but also perceive the innermost thoughts and intentions of every character in the Ramayana, whether demon or human, Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna, or Sita. Even what they spoke aloud and what they felt in their hearts shall be revealed to you by my blessing. Write, therefore, the sacred story of Rama in beautiful verse, and I promise not a single line will contain falsehood or embellishment. Every word you compose will be truth, untainted, pure, and auspicious. And those who hear or read the Ramayana you write with devotion will be absolved of all sins and attain great spiritual merit. Compose this wondrous tale in harmonious shlokas, so captivating that the heart is enraptured simply by listening. Let the Ramakatha, the story of Rama, enter people's hearts without effort. Let it gladden their souls, no matter how many times or from how many perspectives it is heard. As long as mountains stand and rivers flow, as long as the earth exists, so long shall the Ramayana live on and be told in this world. As long as there are human beings on this earth, so long must they listen to and cherish the story of Rama. For nothing in the world brings more blessing to humanity. Upon hearing these divine words, Valmiki rejoiced. As Brahma departed, Valmiki, after his purification rites, sat facing east, spread fresh dabha grass, and composed the sacred Ramayana, comprising 24,000 shlokas. The Gayatri mantra itself contains 24 bijaksharas, and each one became the seed for 1,000 verses in the Ramayana. Thus, in composing his epic, Valmiki gave the world a sacred scripture rooted in spiritual mystery and divine inspiration. Reading or listening to the Ramayana is akin to immersing oneself in the sacred commentary of the Gayatri Mahamantra. Valmiki, the sage, composed the Ramayana as a grand epic, 24,000 shlokas, arranged in 500 sagas across 6 kandas, culminating in the Uttarakanda. He named his creation by several titles: Kavya, the great poem; Ramayana, the journey of Rama; Sita's glorious story; and the slaying of Palasya, Ravana. Each name reflects a divine aspect of the narrative: Rama's journey, Sita's virtues, the defeat of Ravana, and the movement, ayana, sustained on the twin legs of dharma and truth. The very word ayana means movement. As the Ramayana unfolds, Rama's journey is not just a physical one, but a pilgrimage on the twin feet of Dharma and Satya, with one foot firmly in truth, the other in dharma. Lord Rama moved through his life. And so, the story is called Ramayana, the journey of Rama. This epic is simultaneously Sita's great story, Sitaya's Charitam Mahat, and the saga of Ravana's slaying, Paulastya Vadam Iti. Valmiki himself declared, I call this scripture Ramayana, I call it Kavya, I call it the noble tale of Sita, I call it the glorious defeat of Ravana. The Ramayana is crafted beautifully, equally delightful, whether read, recited, or sung. The sage composed it so it could be rendered musically. That is why Lav and Kush first sang it in Rama's presence. The language is so melodious. As tradition says, whatever language one reads Ramayana in, it sounds as if it is their own tongue. Such is the sublime poetry and the accessible Sanskrit of Valmiki's work. As you read or listen to Ramayana, it does not feel like a distant narrative. It is as though events are happening directly in front of you. Every gesture, every embrace, every word between brothers. The epic's artistry is so vivid that even the legendary poet Kalidasa, after reading the Ramayana, desired to write an epic in its model, and thus composed his Kumara Sambhavam. In both music and literature, the Ramayana stands at the apex. Its verses are not only poetic but harmonious, fit for the 3 classical tempos, rendered in the 7 melodic modes. It can be played on the veena and other instruments. Its sweetness has inspired devotional renderings. Valmiki wove into his Ramayana every rasa: love, compassion, humor, valor, fear, anger, making the epic a fountain of life's emotional and spiritual richness. Having completed such a wondrous work, he thought, who shall I teach this to? And thus, he chose the divine twins, Lav and Kush. Valmiki observed the 2 divine children, Lava and Kusha, and recognized their potential as ideal disciples. He invited them and taught them the entire Ramayana in song. Then, on an auspicious day, Valmiki arranged for the very first recitation of the Ramayana. Where did this first performance occur? In the very hermitage of sage Valmiki, before an assembly of rishis. Lava and Kusha sang the epic, and as their sweet voices filled the air, the sages were entranced. The Ramayana's melody was so enchanting that those who heard it were overwhelmed with joy, feeling as if their lifespans and vitality were increased. All the essence of the Vedas was condensed into this great poem. And when Lava and Kusha sang, the entire gathering lost track of time in bliss. Such was their delight that the sages could only exclaim in wonder and awe, wonderful, beautiful, language exhausted by the depth of their happiness. So touched were the sages that they felt compelled to give something to Lava and Kusha. One untied his upper garment and gifted it in gratitude. Another, unable to part with anything else, gave his own water pot. These were not ordinary gifts. Each sage gave what was most precious at hand, for such was the sweetness and spiritual joy that the Ramayana inspired. The twins then sang the Ramayana through the streets of Ayodhya. When Lord Rama himself heard them, he was so moved that he summoned them to the royal palace, gathering Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna, their mothers, and all the royal household. Rama declared, "This is the great tale of Sita. Listen, and you will find peace of mind. I too am filled with tranquility and happiness, hearing the way these children sing." Thus, Rama himself sat and listened, rejoicing in the singing of his life story. The Ramayana begins at this point, where Valmiki describes the glories of Ayodhya. Delving into the sacred text, you discover wondrous details, not merely outward displays of wealth and grandeur, but the virtues and characteristics of the people themselves. The sage does not focus on palatial buildings or jewels, but on the noble qualities of the citizens. If you wish to know what makes people truly good, look to the qualities described in the people of Ayodhya. The sage never flatters, never condemns, he simply describes. It is left to readers and listeners to be inspired and aspire to those virtues ourselves. The beauty of Ayodhya is not in excess or ornamentation, but in the richness of its character, which stands in contrast to the extravagance of Lanka. As Valmiki writes, Ayodhya was built on the banks of the Sarayu River by the will of the great King Manu, a city blessed with abundant wealth and food, and filled with noble, joyful people. Ayodhya, the city of ancient origins, was abundant with wealth and crops, a truly flourishing garden city, brimming with prosperity. Countless people lived within its strong, well-guarded gates. Machines, watchtowers, and defensive ramparts ensured safety. Orchards and gardens bloomed everywhere, filled with the fragrance of countless flowers and the gentle humming of bees. The beauty of a town, the sages say, lies not in artificial displays, but in purposeful growth. The joy of a great lake, like Ramapa Lake in Warangal, or the sight of a grand tree, a splendid flower garden, or a well-built reservoir, brings true happiness. It reflects the wisdom of those who planned for the community's welfare. In Ayodhya, homes were spotless, fragrant with sandalwood water, patterned with decorative designs, and adorned with fluttering flags, filling the town with dignity and peace. A remarkable custom in Ayodhya was there were no unused vacant plots of land. Every space was wisely developed for the prosperity of all. No land was left idle, merely to wait for its price to rise someday. Such a philosophy fostered progress. Every resource served the community. Soothing music enlivened Ayodhya, uplifting minds, nurturing noble culture. In that city, no orphan ever perished for lack of care, and even the fiercest beasts received justice. Usually, lions and tigers were not slain with weapons. Warriors fought them hand to hand to prove valor. For glory was found in struggle, not slaughter. Most noteworthy was the virtue and character of Ayodhya's people. Every man and woman practiced dharma, righteousness, just as sages do. There was not a single man or woman who failed in their spiritual duty, and no one was deceitful. Even if one was born poor in Ayodhya, they never remained so. They toiled, grew, and prospered, so that one born poor would die rich, never left behind in want. Tireless effort, righteous living, and continual growth marked the lives of Ayodhya's citizens. They did not measure greatness by hoarding wealth. Even those who saved little did so only after meeting duties and paying taxes. The true mark of nobility was not amassing, but honest work, supporting society, and living simply. If a person earned 10 coins and saved 2, paying their dues, they were prudent, without extravagance. If someone earned 100,000, spent 1,000, and invested the rest for society's benefit, they too were respected. For virtue lies in using possessions wisely and for the greater good. Such was Ayodhya, a city of harmony, progress, humility, and collective happiness, built on dharma, love, and purposeful effort for the welfare of all. In Ayodhya, living lavishly merely because one possessed great means was considered a betrayal of the future. To spend solely for self-satisfaction, without thought for others or for those yet to come, was seen as harming oneself. True, ideal citizens maintained a balance between self-use and preservation for the greater good. Though the people possessed great wealth, they were never drawn to extravagance or unhealthy indulgence. Everything spent was for beneficial and purposeful endeavors. No one in Ayodhya would claim to lack elephants, horses, riches, or grain. The city was so prosperous, every person experienced the blessings of the three goals, the Purusharthas. Through dharma, righteousness, they fulfilled artha, prosperity, and kama, desires. Desires arose, yet were always pursued in ways that were right. Wealth, too, was spent righteously. Dharma guided all pursuits and pleasures. No person in Ayodhya was without family. A true family man was one who had 10: himself, wife, mother, father, 2 sons, 2 daughters-in-law, 1 daughter, and above all, the ever-honored guest. Every meal, the honored guest was welcomed and fed first. The family would eat the remaining food. The guest is God, Atithi Devo Bhava. The guest partakes first. The family follows, happy and content. And if the daughter was married, even after her marriage, she belonged to the family. In sacred tradition, she was never truly given away. She always retained rights and a cherished place. No one who clung to sensuality, abandoned righteousness, or amassed wealth through causing harm to others could find a place in Ayodhya. No one despised education. Study was seen as the prime requisite of human birth. Ignorance was not tolerated. People were never miserly to the point of starving, but neither did they wastefully indulge. The emphasis was always on wise, righteous, and balanced living. Every household practiced sacred fire rituals. None were ever seen without proper bathing, grooming, or fragrant cleanliness. Everyone was dignified, bathed daily, wore clean clothes, and adorned themselves gently. The citizens' devotion to their king was exceptional. Noble steeds from distant lands, mighty elephants of varied breeds, all paraded the avenues, testifying to Ayodhya's astonishing prosperity. There were 8 wise ministers supporting King Dasaratha, each so discerning that the king even considered their friends before awarding a post. For one's company revealed much about one's heart. These ministers were so astute they could read a person's character merely by their expression. Such was their wisdom and insight. The very word bribe was utterly unknown among them. In Ayodhya, the 8 chief ministers, Drishti, Jayanta, Vijaya, Siddhartha, Arthasadaka, Ashoka, Mantrapala, and Sumantra, were masters of every noble discipline. Their integrity was such that even the suggestion of any improper act would bring them deep shame. They exercised self-control, possessed wisdom, were well versed in scriptures, valiant in action, and descended from noble families. Every decision was made with careful contemplation. Their words, always gentle and spoken with a smile. If even their own sons strayed from the path, discipline would follow, for their discernment was clear and impartial. These ministers existed in perfect unity. Among them, there was never jealousy, never rivalry, never the pursuit of personal supremacy. They upheld harmony, working with consensus and mutual respect. Clad in fine clothes, refined in their appearance, they remained ever vigilant, with the eye of righteousness. They valued justice above all, believing that ethics and dharma must never be compromised. Any decline in morality would mean ruin for the kingdom. Wherever the seed of corruption is allowed to grow, even in hope of quick prosperity, the whole nation suffers, its culture withers, and its glory is lost. Justice was so dearly regarded that if any trace of unrighteousness was found, whether intentional or accidental, they assessed not only the deed, but the motive behind it and its potential harm to society. They dealt with transgressions as one treats an infectious disease, swiftly and firmly. If a mistake arose from innocence or ignorance and affected few, the penalty was merciful. But if an error was egregious or threatened the culture, the ministers responded with stern discipline, ensuring the nation's morality and unity endured. This profound dedication to righteousness and justice made Ayodhya, under King Dasaratha, and these 8 ministers appear truly as heaven on earth. Reading the Ramayana, one is not only enchanted by Rama's virtues, but inspired by the noble character of Ayodhya's citizens. Valmiki's portrait of these ministers and their conduct is a source of great joy, offering an unparalleled vision of an ideal society built on unity, discernment, humility, and above all, unwavering adherence to dharma. As we read of these ministers and the king, as we learn about King Dasaratha, the righteous sovereign who established dharma as if he were a sage himself, one cannot help but feel inspired. If only we could live like this. If only our land were like this. The Ramayana is a scripture that fills us with the highest ideals. As long as the Ramayana exists, the honor of humankind will be preserved. Today, as I conclude this discourse, I thank you all. Your rapt attention and deep immersion over these 2 hours have blessed our study of the Ramayana.